A new law restores the FCC's authority to auction spectrum and requires at least 800 megahertz be sold, potentially pulling it from the 6 gigahertz and CBRS bands currently used by Wi-Fi and rural broadband providers. While mobile carriers like AT&T and Verizon support the move to give them more bandwidth, for 5G expansion, critics warn it could slow your Wi-Fi and harm small ISPs that rely on these bands. The law reverses earlier efforts to protect 6 gigahertz for unlicensed use and reflects growing pressure from the wireless industry, now backed by former FCC Ajit Pai, who leads a major telecom lobby. Tom, 800 megahertz, is that a lot of bandwidth to pull out of these bands, or is it just a rounding error?
It's only a flesh wound. How bad could it be? It's not like the 6 gigahertz spectrum is 1200 megahertz in width. Oh, wait, that's exactly how big it is. Yeah, my political soapbox for this little story is probably going to be more like one of those CrossFit box jumps that's like 5 feet tall. So allow me to elaborate on that. We opened up these two bands, and we opened them up under extreme pressure from lobbying groups. The first band, of course, was CBRS, where you probably heard of this for things like IoT or for warehouse locations that are not well suited to Wi-Fi that need large coverage for devices. And we had to play with some certain rules. The CBRS band is lightly licensed, which means that there are people who can buy a license in that band, and then they can operate in that band. And then if you're trampling all over their license, you have to move. So there's the ability to operate unlicensed in that band. Then we have the 6 gigahertz band. And this is an interesting story. The short version is that when they were doing all the original surveys, they got a lot of feedback from satellite download providers and from telecom companies who said, oh, we need way more studies before we can let you use this. And the incumbent Wi-Fi companies like Aruba and Cisco said, no, you don't. We've proven that it doesn't actually interfere with anything and there's no problems and you should open it up. And they did under Ajit Pai when he was the FCC chairperson. And then we come to this year when someone snuck a little rider into the bill that was passed. It was neither big nor beautiful. It was kind of a pain in the neck. Among other things, like trying to repurpose the Space Shuttle Discovery to Houston. They also said, well, remember those things that we set aside for everyone to be able to use Wi-Fi? Yeah, we would like to sell those to somebody now. Well, who was the first group of people lining up at the door, cup in hand, ready to pay for the thing that they claimed they needed more time to sort out? That's right. It's the telecom providers. And who's the lobbyists for the lobbying group that's working on behalf of them? Oh, that would be the same person who opened that spectrum up a few years ago, who got fired or was departed from the FCC and got himself a nice cushioning lobbying job. Hopefully he's drinking out of a 55-gallon drum instead of that comically oversized coffee cup that he loved to put on TV so much. This isn't about coffee. This is about going back on a promise that said that we're going to give you this band to expand, because if you think that the telecom providers are having a problem finding spectrum in 5G, one, you've obviously never been in 2.4 gigahertz recently, because that's a trash band if I've ever saw it. And two, it's funny that that's what they're telling the government, because what they're telling the investors is, oh, we got plenty of room to expand. This won't be a problem. Please don't let the stock price dip because we lied to you. That's really weird. It's almost like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, which honestly is not something I should be surprised about, because this is a political discussion. If you want to know why Ajit Pai was so ready to say that 6 gigahertz isn't being well utilized, maybe you could go back to the FCC and ask them about why they had so many crazy rules in place that wouldn't allow 6 gigahertz operations outdoors without the AFC databases being brought online and having tons of studies done before you would even light it up. And oh my God, if you ever get a radar hit in an airport, we got to shut this thing down for 6 months to figure out why the airport radar systems are so comically backwards that they don't operate well with anything, because that was another group of people that kept saying that they can't operate in those bands. And guess who was the other group behind the airports trying to get 6 gigahertz shut down? That's right. It was AT&T and Verizon. So you'll have to excuse me if I think that maybe the motto of the U.S. government should not be, why do we give away things we could sell to people? Do better, guys, and quit trying to sneak these things into must-pass bills, because if you don't, well, who knows what might happen the next time somebody is in office who actually understands how technology works. There, I'm going to jump down off my soapbox now.